Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayubelia, and thank God it's Monday. We usually say thank God it's Friday, but this time I'm saying thank God it's Monday. You know why? Because it gives you an opportunity to get the things left undone, done this time around. So.
Very interesting. Good morning, Nigerians. It's glad to have you join us here on the program this morning. Today is the 21st.
Yes, 21st
of February. Some will say the month ran fast. Some said it was too slow. What do you think about that?
February usually is that month that you count just 28 days. So it doesn't take as long as usual. Especially after experiencing a month like January, that many people feel like is a 6 weeks month.
We can't wait for payday, already.
But February is a lot, different, has only 28 days. So thankfully, we are counting down to the end of the month. And, also, thankfully, we are edging out of the fail saga that we all experienced.
It was terrible.
Last week.
But
Last
we are
week
glad,
was one of the most horrific weeks I have seen in this country. It just demonstrated how useful or how important fuel as a commodity is to all of us as Nigerians. Virtually everything was affected. In fact, it got to a point where people were now, not going to work because of, that fuel incident. And I hope that gradually we are seeing the dissipation of the, long queues in the filling stations. I drove into one of the filling stations on Saturday, somewhere around Bega.
Minimal, I hope.
And I didn't even spend up to 10 minutes there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I was really shocked because I was
horrible.
thinking that I would have to queue up for, a while before I would get the petroleum product. But eventually, I didn't stay that much. So that's an indication that we're getting ahead of it gradually.
And we do hope we don't get to see this ever again, because the experience is terrible.
Ever
really.
again. With the assurances we've gotten from the NNPC, ordering the depots and retailers to be on standby for 24 hours, selling and doing business. It's hopeful that we will not be experiencing this anytime soon. So it's quite encouraging.
Well, today on the program, we'll be talking reading culture and writing as well. Many of you agree that, reading culture back in Nigeria have really, really declined, not just in Nigeria, but in Africa as a whole. We're going to be looking at that.
Yes, and of course, as always, we'll be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. Quite a number of stories on the front pages of our newspapers. We'll get to see the details of that. Before that, let's take a look at the news highlights this morning. We'll begin with the first story here that says, soldiers attached to Operation Wild Stroke in Benue State on Saturday rescued
the terrorist
8
network recruited thousands of children to support its fight against state actors.
Of Agasha, a rural town in Guma local government area of the state, were taken hostage by their captors while they were working on their farms last Wednesday. Spokesman to the state governor, Nathaniel Iku, said that the victims had spent over 3 days with their abductors before their fortunate rescue. Iku said that the troop earlier made contact with the kidnappers at Beko village, which led to the exchange of gunfire with the perpetrators, and that they overpowered the kidnappers suspected to be herders, adding that the superior firepower of the soldiers overwhelmed the kidnappers, who fled in disarray, leaving behind the kidnapped victims. He further disclosed that the victims have been reunited with their families.
Now to other stories. 9 people, including a pregnant woman, have lost their lives in fatal multiple accidents along the Ilorin-Ogbomoso Expressway on Sunday. Confirming the incident to Daily Trust, the state sector commander of the FRSC, Jonathan Owade, said a total number of 20 persons were involved in the accident, but 9 of them were killed and 8 suffered burns, bruises and open wounds, among other varying degrees of injuries. He said the injured victims have been taken to the Ilorin General Hospital, while the dead bodies were deposited at the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital morgue Okeoye. The Lagos-bound passenger bus had loaded at the Gerin Alimi Motor Park, heading outwards the metropolis when it rammed into the private vehicle. The victims are reported to have been burnt beyond recognition after the fuel-filled gallons loaded inside the 18-seater passenger bus caught fire from the impact of the accident. Quite tragic.
Right now, finally, in sports news, International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach announced the Beijing Winter Olympics officially closed on Sunday. Bach announced this at the closing ceremony at the Bird's Nest Stadium in Beijing. The event, masterminded by acclaimed Chinese film director Zhang Yimou, who is also responsible for the 2008 Summer Games ceremonies. China earned an unprecedented 9 gold medals during the Games, coming ahead of the United States. That's that for the news highlights. Now let's take a look at the events that made history in our world this day. Please stay with us. All right, thank you for staying. Now, taking a look at today in history, you could see that today is International Mother Language Day. Very interesting.
Very important. You know, people have talked about why parents do not like to teach their children their mother tongue. You get to see families where children grow up and everybody speaks English, or everybody speaks Hausa. And we get to forget our real mother tongue.
True.
And it's really
And I think that is coming with a lot of, thinking or mindset, about cultural practices and tradition as being outdated. More and more people are beginning to think that with modernization, we really do not need, the mother language as such. But the truth is that we do need it. I mean, to preserve our culture, to preserve our tradition, we need to speak in our languages. I mean, you never get to know the advantage of that until when you want to communicate some very confidential or secretive things, to your family member or, someone very close, and then you do not know how to speak your mother tongue. That can be really embarrassing sometimes.
You can start mumbling, and just look really very weird and don't know what to say.
And especially when you're among your folks and everyone is speaking and you cannot really make any contributions because you do not understand the language. So it's quite embarrassing. It's something that we must all be deliberate about to preserve our culture as Africans. I mean, English language is not our mother tongue. It's something that we just...
It's an official language, but...
it's an artificial language, sort of.
Indeed.
Yeah, because it's not original with us. So it's important that this day is preserved, and I believe that that's why this day is being marked, to create that awareness on the relevance of preserving the mother language and to preserve our culture and tradition. That would do a whole lot. Well, another one, talking about International Tourist Guide Day.
Tourist guide? Is it like the tourist guides that you meet when you go for a vacation?
Yes, I believe that's it. I believe that's the case. And well, today is a day for them. Well, what do they do really? Keeping...
I think they do a lot of explanations.
Yeah, well, to the extent that I can understand, to the extent that as a tourist, you literally put your life in their hands because you do not know where you are. You do not know the places. And so, yeah, it takes a lot, to become a tourist guide, because they could choose to take advantage of you as a tourist, and anything could happen to you. So, yeah, it's a very important day to create that awareness about how important to have, tourist guides, so that as you embark on your vacations and your trips, to strange lands, you are in safe hands, and you can go about, visiting all the places that you feel are important to you in your travel. So that's also very important. In 1804, we have the story about the British engineer Richard, who demonstrated the first steam engine to run on rails, and that's quite remarkable. Talking about the Industrial Revolution, the way things have changed at the time, transportation, communication, and a whole lot of other inventions that changed the world till today, is traced back to those days. So, and that's very, very important in our world. Also back in Nigeria, Usman Dan Fodio, the first caliph of Sokoto, ever wandered, we had the translation of the caliphate into a sultanate, and that's because of the Usman Dan Fodio, what do you call the, how do you term what Usman Dan Fodio did?
He attributed prosecuting a holy war that brought Islam, to most of northern Nigeria. We could say he conquered, that part
exactly.
of
So,
the caliphate.
That was after, you have some of those changes. Now, by that, what happened was that there was a change in the name of the caliphate, the Sokoto Caliphate, from a caliphate to a sultanate. And that's what happened in those days. That's a very interesting history of Nigeria that must not be forgotten as well. Now, that's that for today in history. We're taking a breather, and then when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We'll look at the past. Now we look at the present. What is happening in our world of today? Stay with us, please.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Now, if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital on Trust Television. We'll take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story talks about, 8 months after abduction, 13-year-old schoolgirls married off to bandits, and it has the riders that says 3 pregnant students released to parents. 12-year-old Bethel student remains in captivity, and then over 10 captives still with abductors. We are working for their release, and that's according to the security agencies, I believe. If you take a look at the infographic, you see a timeline of, the FGC Birni Yawuri kidnapping, which started off, on June the 17th of 2021, and quite a number of them were abducted, 80 students and 5 teachers, and now we've seen the release of a good number. Only about 13 female students are said to have been married off to the bandits. That's quite unfortunate, really, because that's a change. It's like changing the destiny of children entirely, because
Terrible. It's really
what they wanted was different, and now you're forcing them into marrying, what do you call them now, bandits. Other stories there are below that. You will see APC to postpone convention over unresolved crisis, and that's on page 14. At the very bottom, you see pregnant woman, 8 others burnt to death in Kwara road crash. Queen Elizabeth test positive for COVID-19. 8 killed, 14 abducted as bandits attack Niger communities. At the very top there, you would see some very, very scary stories. For those who are consumers of pomo, maybe it's time to have a rethink.
We cannot not eat pomo, can we?
The story says tons of pomo that can cause deadly disease imported to Nigeria, and that's the NAFDAC raising alarm there. So you may want to get a glimpse of, the details of that story, it's a warning by NAFDAC. Now it says hard times for passengers as airlines raise fares by 100%. You also have the story about Nigerian airstrike targeting terrorists, killed children in Niger Republic. Quite interesting stories there. The one about the Pomo, a lot of, I'm so interested in that. NAFDAC is saying they've intercepted, tons of, the Pomo there in Lagos. So if you're a Lagosian, and I know that that's more like a headquarter of Pomo in Nigeria. For those who are wondering what Pomo is
cow skin, I think.
Yes,
animal skin rather.
Yes, animal hides are usually being consumed in some parts of the country. I believe all over the country though, but there are some people that are more professionals, in this.
But I really like Pomo. I love Pomo. I don't know.
How much do you like Pomo? Do you like Pomo as much as our Yoruba folks?
I love Pomo. But it's sad,
I doubt that. I doubt if you like Pomo as much as, because for some Yoruba folks, some of our crew members here in the studio, behind the scene, can tell. Folabi, I know you are watching me and you are saying.
And he eats Pomo too.
I know that it's something that it's a very serious delicacy, and without Pomo, I don't think the meal would have been well served. So, well, just be careful. NAFDAC is saying that some of these things are being adulterated, imported ones, adulterated with chemicals and the likes, and so people should be careful. Well, that's that for the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at some more stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The Punch leads with the story, Convention, APC battles consensus crisis as Buhari governors meet Tuesday. And the riders there, state chapters confirm readiness, await Buni's signal. Chairmanship aspirant laments planned postponement. And you see all the stories right at the top. Nigeria lost over 2,000 lives to air crashes in 53 years, says AIB. And on page 33 on the Punch, fuel scarcity, private depots hike rates, more filling stations may sell above 180 naira per litre. Federal government admits inspection failure caused dirty fuel imports, prices soar in states. And you see other stories on page 26. We won't leave APC. Aregbesol's group vows as Oyetola defeats Adioti. Bomo treated with industrial chemicals dangerous. NAFDAC warns Nigerians, probes merchants. And on page 18 on the Punch, strike. ASU NEC converges on Abuja today to meet federal government. And then there's a pictorial there, quite very funny pictorial there though. Anti-Aregbesol's protest in Lagos, demonstrators berate minister. And you see the story about pregnant woman, 8 others die at Lagos-bound bus car collide, explode. On page 4, Ondo kidnappers sleep off. Abducted community leader escapes. Nursing mother on bail for illicit drug rearrested with tramadol. Others, and you find details of that story on page 5.
All right, well, on the front page of the Punch, I'm seeing something that Nigerians are fond of doing, in our political sphere, and that's on the pictorial there. There's something in front of those 4 people standing there that looks like
Is that like a coffin?
Yeah, coffin with the name of Aregbesola written on it, saying RIP. I mean, that's absurd. I don't know why people do that. No matter what the political rivalry is or whatever it is, it's more like wishing the person death. And you shouldn't wish anyone
This sends really
death.
a really bad signal,
We saw that during the Goodluck administration as well, while he was, ending his term in office, when the whole campaign became so heated and all that. And I think that it's wrong to do that. Well, also, we have other interesting stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper. You might want to pick a copy of that and have a glance. What's happening there? The lead story talks about governors meet today over new APC Convention date. And it says, partly to set agenda for tomorrow's talks with Buhari, Congress is to hold in zones. And then you would have at the top there, how Oyetola trounced Aragbeshola's man. You see Governor extends olive branch. Alafin seeks support for Tinubu's presidential bid. And you see fare hike. Fear of passenger drop grips airlines. And then IPPIS not suitable for varsity system, says JAM registrar. Other stories there. Silver, inspection failure to blame for toxic petrol import. And that's according to Minister of Petroleum for State. And that's that on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Okay, let's take a look at some more on the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint also leads with a story about APC National Convention. Uncertainty as party awaits Buhari on Al-Makura, Mustafa Musa Akume. And the writers there states zonal congresses may come before convention. Forum cautions on plots to disqualify ex-Nasarawa governor. Elect vibrant youth as next chair, group tells APC. And you find other stories right at the top. Bad feel, tension as probe panel uncovers third-party involvement, scarcity and embarrassment. And this is according to civil society organizations. And you see other stories just below that. FIRs to tax goods, services by companies without offices in Nigeria. And on page 24, Nigerian businesses lack strong identity protection. Kefi FMC frets over 10 unclaimed corpses, threatens mass burial. This reminds me, of the story you did, Ayuba, about the corpses that you visited, I think a morgue, you said or so?
Yes.
This actually reminds me of that, unclaimed
yes,
bodies.
The documentary, yeah. I mean, it's horrible, actually, what we see. I wouldn't want to paint a grim picture of what I saw myself in one of the hospitals, federal hospitals for that matter. It will shock you to know what bodies look like in the morgues. You would think that we have a much more organized system, but I think it's something that maybe calls for an investigation of some sort. Maybe government should just visit, just go and visit and see how, we treat bodies at the morgues. It's
quite tragic.
You'll be shocked. So let me just leave it at that.
All right, these are some of the major stories on the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
All right, now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper, which is the last story that we'll be looking at. Now, the lead story talks about local airlines struggle with depleted fleet, low market penetration. And then it has the riders that says over 48 aircraft grounded, operators lease 12 to sustain local operation. You have also high maintenance costs, jet, exchange rate, hobby industry growth. Aero contractor struggles with staff salary, and you also see FG fails in pledges to deliver local maintenance organization, leasing company 6 year on. It is time to save sector from collapse, says operators. Well, there you have it. Now, below that, beside the pictorial by the left, you have concerns over alleged move to scuttle APC Convention. Other stories there, NAFDAC raises the alarm over circulation of contaminated Bomo in Lagos. And then you have BUK first-class graduate shot dead in Anambra. Pregnant woman, 8 others burnt to death in Kwara auto crash. And then below the pictorial, you see after sharing 45 billion naira, FCT primary schools remain short. These are the stories on the front page of The Guardian this morning. Now we'll connect with our viewer virtually this time around on the show this morning, and he is Abdulaziz, the Deputy General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Good morning, and
All right. Well, very interesting stories this morning on the Daily Trust's newspaper, for instance. We see that about 13 of the Yaruri schoolgirls have been married off to bandits. That's quite heartbreaking, isn't it? How does this come to you?
Yeah, it's really quite hard. It's a very bad development, especially because it's an incident that has been forgotten by almost everybody who seems to be talking about it, and people who should pay attention to issues like this. Uh, I think they're quite to, dig to, this student abducted according to the story. Oh, and that's quite a long time. Of brings the very horrible attitude or the bandits that are now, with
Well, it appears that we have some technical hits. We'll try to reconnect back to Abdulaziz, but while we'll do that, we'll take a look at the stories again, talking about the Yauri abduction itself. How heartbreaking can this be?
It is really
these
tragic,
are students with aspirations, with plans for their future. And now here it is being kind of hijacked, because that's what it is, really. Someone hijacking your future for you.
I cannot imagine, the psychological trauma this will have, on these young girls. And, it's enough, with the whole situation you're facing in the country, and you going through this unwillingly. I can't imagine how it's going to be.
Also, taking a look at the fact that, 3 of those girls have been impregnated, and then released by the bandits. So you wonder which is better, marrying off forcefully, or, getting impregnated and then being released.
These are the kind of situations that make people have suicidal thoughts, because you stop to ask yourself, what really am I living for? What am I living for, really?
True. And that will come definitely with a lot of indoctrination, because we've seen this similar cases in the Northeast where some of these girls that were abducted, eventually, even when the chance to get them released, comes up, they just choose not to even, go anymore, because perhaps maybe they think, what is there to live for again? After this horrible experience, it's like life will never go back to normal anymore for those girls, and that's quite sad, really. We understand that a good number of the students have been released, but for those that have not been released, for those forcefully married off to the bandits, it's like their expectations, their future has been cut short, and there's no way around this. So it's unfortunate. Commendably, though, we have some releases of the teachers and the students that were initially abducted. But again, we wanted, to see the release of the complete,
all of them,
children, and not, part of them. So it's quite sad. Other interesting stories on the front page, the Apc Convention that a lot of people have waited and talked about. There are indications that there's a likely postponement of the convention, given the fact that even, forms for the various party seats is not yet on sale, and all of that. So, and certain unresolved issues, pending issues that are yet to be concluded by the Peace Committee and the rest. So, I have seen this coming, really.
Oh, really? You did?
I saw this coming, really.
With the assurances that we had, I thought we were not going to be here talking about this.
If you talk about 26th of February, 26th of February, just days away from now, about 5 days, away from now. And if, you are conducting elections in that convention and you are yet to begin the sales of forms, when are you going to start the sales? And then when are the candidates or the aspirants going to pick up the forms and you know, fill them up and submit them back and do some of those processes, I mean, how would you be able to achieve within these few days that is left? So it's quite unfortunate, but we continue to, you know, follow up with that and keep watching. These are the early signs that we are seeing that there's a likelihood of postponement, but peradventure, they still go ahead to do the convention, then maybe the fears of a lot of people about having an implosion may just be coming, you know, to reality, given the fact that certain issues are yet to be resolved, you know, by the party. So very interesting.
You know, there's this story, you know, the one about Nigerian airstrike targeting terrorists, kill children in Niger Republic. I've thought about that and I've said to myself, what implication does this really have, you know, for us?
Yeah, very, very interesting. The information that we are seeing was actually given by a governor in the state that was concerned, that was affected by this, one of the border communities in Niger Republic. So, and from the tone, though, from what I read, it's like there's this understanding, oh, it's a mistake. You know, this happens even on Nigerian soil. They call it friendly fire, and even though it's unfortunate.
Friendly? Doesn't sound friendly, though.
Yeah, I mean, in the context of, you know, firing on your own, on the very people you seek to protect, you know.
Friendly fire.
Not friendly in the sense that, okay, it's friendly, but I mean in the sense of this is within your own domain, and this happens, you know, mistakenly and all that. So it's unfortunate. This has happened a couple of times in the Northeast where we see airstrike kill, you know, our own people. And it's unfortunate that this happens, but again, experts will say, well, it's part of the collateral damages that are likely when you are fighting a war. And this happened to be on another soil, not Nigeria. It could, you know, without the understanding.
Does it have any diplomatic implications?
Yes, it could strike, you know, some kind of rivalry, some kind of, you know, conflict if it is not properly managed, you know, but that is why communication, diplomatic communication is very key in this, that our people, or our neighbors rather, should have that understanding that it's, I mean, it happens and all that. So let's reconnect back to Abdulaziz, the Deputy General Editor, Daily Trust newspaper, for his own perspectives. Well, we were talking about the abduction of the Yauri school children. But again, another one closely related on issue of security is the recent airstrike that you know, was targeting terrorists, but in the process now hit innocent civilians in Niger Republic. Again, what do we know about this so far?
Yeah, so very much for having me back. Actually, a very serious problem, and that, of course, the authorities have been hard in their own way to ensure that we tackle the problem. And part of it is the air strike, and you know, strikes are really problematic in terms of counterterrorism, especially in operations against communities. Well, even in the northeast, they've quite reported a lot of successes in the airports, but also had cases of mistaken identity or missing target, like what happened some time back in Yobe State, I think last year, and yeah, in the northern western country, we have also had instances of such things in Niger State, and more happened yesterday. Now,
All right, well, again, we still have these technical hitches. Hopefully we'll reconnect, you know, and get the perspectives from Abdulaziz there. So, yes, we were talking about this, the implication of this on our diplomatic. Recall that Nigeria and Niger, they have this multinational joint task force, combating terrorism along that region. And so I believe and I expect that there will be that synergy and that understanding that, I mean, this is not an assault. I mean, it's not a declaration of war on Niger.
No.
Yes, and that's why I call it friendly fire, actually.
It sounds quite friendly,
yes.
in the context, what...
Yeah, in the context of, okay, we belong on the same side.
Yes.
And all that, yes. So it's unfortunate that, we understand that about 7 children, were killed in the process. 4 died instantly, and about 3 of them succumbed to injuries, in the hospital. So,
I would love to see some form of compensation for this.
Yes, there should be, and I believe that will be taken care of by our, maybe Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then our our embassies in Niger and all of that. Well, that's that, and also very interesting, other stories on the front pages of our newspapers, talking about, this. Well, we've touched on the issue of Pomo, that it's
everywhere. It's
everywhere
virtually
on
almost all of the papers.
Almost on all the papers, and that means that we should take that seriously, because when the NAFDAC is speaking, it's speaking from the point of view of intelligence, from the point of view of research, and accurate information.
I was also wondering, should we be importing pomo in the first place?
That beats my imagination, actually. I mean, things like pomo. I mean, why do we have to import? It's like importing animals, for consumption, because we have that in abundance here.
We do a lot of that here.
So I'm wondering, maybe we've eaten all that we have, and now we have to look elsewhere to get more.
We?
But I mean, literally, we shouldn't have to be importing these things. We have them, right here at our doorsteps. So it's very, very alarming to have that. And I hope that people will listen to this caution. Now, we've been able to get Abdulaziz back. I hope that this time we'll be able to stay connected for his own perspectives. Well, if you may, your thoughts about the Nigerian airstrike targeting terrorists that killed innocent civilians in Niger Republic, the implication of that, on our diplomatic engagement with Niger Republic. Do you think that there will be some negative implication?
Thank you very much. Actually, as I was saying, we have had similar incidences where those airstrikes become really problematic. I mean, they go the wrong way. And as you were saying earlier, the Niger Republic authorities to understand that this is something that was not intentional. This is something that has happened in the. But the airstrikes are very good in terms of combating terrorists and all other criminals. But it's something that they dread a lot, because they know that whenever it happens, it is usually very devastating. When it's successful, I mean, it can take out a lot of people at once. Also, we still have challenges with it, because as I was recounting, we have had instances where it went wrong and hit targets. In that context, I I don't want to be, especially for Nigeria, that is a very friendly country to Nigeria. I don't think there will be any diplomatic row. Of course, I know they will not let it go like that. They may demand compensation for their own people. This is one of the things that even um, observers here and have been talking about, that just because this is not intentional does not mean that if civilian targets are hit, shouldn't be compensation for them, which is the case right now in Nigeria. And of course, it's a collateral damage. It's not intentional, but also you can't do the loss when people are killed, when people maybe are widowed or their children are killed. There should be some level of compensation. More importantly for me, we should up our game. We, you know, hard as they try, they still need to tighten up their operation. they still need to be more professional, especially with this air power, because it's something that, of course, will devastation on one side. So, there be some advanced technology, some advanced, some real reconnaissance, because usually what happens is that perhaps wrong information about location, and then when they hit, it happens to be on the target.
Heard of APC to postpone convention over unresolved crisis. Could you comment on that?
Yes, the Apc Convention is something that has been like a very big mouse and cat thing, in which that the leadership at different levels, I mean, the key gladiators trying to outreach each other, and evidently that is what we've been witnessing in the past couple of weeks or even months. Because to even agree on the date was problematic. Remember, it took a lot of pressure even for February 26th date to be announced leadership. And now that it was announced, some dilly-dallying began, some real um, in which we see very lethargic attitude towards the convention itself. Because as you were discussing, you, you know, there are no signs, or even I would say there are up to this moment no signs that the convention will still happen. Also because that what, what is in the paper today, that the governors will meet today and then meet the president tomorrow. So to say that it is on Tuesday that you will meet and take decisions on what happen in something like a national convention, say that it will be happening on Saturday and on meet. Definitely, even though it needs to be announced, the signs are all over that they will not hold this convention on the 26th. Of course, they, to be fair to them, there are crises that may affect even the outcome of the convention if they are not resolved. For example, all the disputes in different courts, alleging validity of state congresses. So if those things are not resolved, if maybe with one case, national convention can be brought down. I mean, can be destroyed because if, as the court say, you can't put everything on of nothing. So if, for example, the people in Kano came and participated in the national convention, and then later a court says the, they were not the valid leaders of the party in Kano, then it will mean a problem with the whole party. So I think it's a serious dilemma, and unfortunately, the party is not, especially most of for a ruling party, it is really disappointing that they cannot uh, call people to order and address these problems. Because for me, that is the
Well, it appears that we have this technical hitch. The network seemed to be very, very bad there. Well, thank you, Abdulaziz, for sharing with us your perspectives on Daybreak this morning. A number of other stories on the front pages of our newspapers. We'll take a breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at some more. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
Hello, and welcome to Trust TV News Updates.
I'm Zainab Bala. For more news, follow us across all our social media platforms.
The nightmare that most of these Pape residents have dreaded for many years is finally happening.
The place is a skeleton of itself, a place that was once busy with patients trooping in and out.
I'm standing right now. I'm standing on top of the Maloney Hill in the ancient city of Kefi.
Cooperation. I know communities where they are contributing to buy locally manufactured guns to defend themselves.
Being a Nigerian entrepreneur, and I am going to be taking you on a journey to show you the beautiful, the motivational and resilient nature of Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
Let's travel down to Shekau, a community in Yobe State, to talk to Shekau's mother on what she thinks about this development.
Well, even to be a magistrate is a funny thing.
Yes, have things changed? Is there more corruption now in the judiciary? What can we do about it?
Well, this is one of the internally displaced camps here in Gusau, the Zamfara state capital.
Where you find that Apc look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak. Now let's take a look at some more stories on our dailies this morning. There's a story about a pregnant woman and 8 others burned to death in Kwara auto crash. You know, when I saw that story, Ayuba, it was tragic. I couldn't help myself.
Really sad.
You know.
I mean, if you look at traveling these days on our roads, you just as you're embarking on that trip, just pray that you get to your destination safely and come back safely, because you really never know. And I can only imagine how painful this will be for the families of that woman who was pregnant, with a child, and the 8 others that died. They were burnt to death in Kwara crash.
Painful death.
I don't know what part of the road that happened, and whether or not we were able to get the response team as soon as possible. But safety measures at this point must be re-emphasized. That as we embark on trips, make sure that your vehicle has all the necessary safety equipment that is needed. For instance, fire extinguishers, are very, very important, because you never really can tell where and how much you need them. So it's very important and then overspeeding, on the road is also very important to look out for that. I mean, we have the authorities, the road safety and the rest. Yes, they will do their part, but on our parts, as a people, we also must also be very, very careful.
One other thing I also noticed with some of these drivers is that some of the times these drivers are not sane when they drive. Some of them drink, They're not really sane, and we really need to look into that. You're carrying a lot of lives in your hands, I would say, as a driver.
Yes.
And it's important
I mean, as a driver, people are literally entrusting their lives into your hands, to get them to their destination safely. And it's your duty to make sure that they get there safely. And it's very important that you do not do that under any kind of influence. Some of them, they walk, I wouldn't say tirelessly, because they are trying to evade, fatigue by taking substances.
So they need to take some
and
they call it.
All of that, yeah. And so it's very important that, we know that that's very dangerous, for us. And for our officials on the road, it's very important to also check, some of these drivers, as they are driving. When you stop, you don't just check the vehicle. Also look at the driver. I think it's very important that the safety, yes. Like in other countries, what they do, once you are, seen or being overspeeding
there's this
or something.
Light. There's this
yes,
torch.
They shine your face. They try to look at you very critically. In fact, some of them, they will draw lines for you to walk on them to check and see whether you're actually, sound, upstairs. So it's very important that we are that deliberate to avert some of these things. Sometimes some of the accidents can actually be averted, in certain cases. So our prayers are with the families of these ones that have lost their lives. And then, of course, the also sad story about the first-class graduate of ABU that was shot in Anambra State. Very sad story, really. And those are the kind of stories that we see on our front pages, BUK rather, not ABU. Those are the kind of stories that we see on our front pages, on the newspapers sometimes, and they are quite heartbreaking. And you really wish that they don't happen at all, really. And, well, these are some of the very interesting stories on our front pages. And then also, not forgetting to mention, Queen Elizabeth tests positive for COVID-19, and that's quite disastrous.
Disastrous, at her age, and she just, celebrated, her Golden Jubilee.
Yes.
70th, and we're seeing this happening. Well,
and for someone who is, that old, usually when they are contracted with COVID-19, then it puts everyone on their toes because you really don't know how it's going to, pan out. But hopefully, she has taken the jabs, and so perhaps there will be, there will not be much effect, on her health. And all of that. We hope that she recovers quickly and as soon as possible. Well, these are some of the stories on the front pages of our newspapers. We'll take a breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at other discussions on the program. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
I have said that.
Coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. Most people who fall sick with COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate symptoms and recover without special treatment. However, some will become seriously ill and require medical attention. The virus can spread from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles when they cough, sneeze, speak, sing, or breathe. These particles range from larger respiratory droplets to smaller aerosols. You can be infected by breathing in the virus if you're near someone who has COVID-19, or by touching a contaminated surface and then touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. The virus spreads more easily indoors and in crowded settings. Maintain a safe distance from others at least 2 meters even if they don't appear to be sick. Wear a mask in public, especially indoors or when physical distancing is not possible. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay home if you feel unwell. Get vaccinated. Properly fitted masks can help prevent the spread of the virus from the person wearing the mask to others. Masks alone do not protect against COVID-19 and should be combined with physical distancing and hand hygiene. Protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precautions. Follow advice provided by your local health authority. This message is brought to you by Trust TV.
All right, welcome back. It's time for our first discussion on the program. Now, the emergence of electronic media and hence the start of an infinite advancement in social media has had its dastard effects on the culture of reading and writing in Nigeria. People of all ages now prefer to use mobile phones to read stories, watch films, read news, send and receive messages outside the primary use of the phone, which is speaking to your desired loved ones, friends, and business associates. Many associations want the dying culture of reading and writing to be revived. Now we have Abdulaziz Al-Hassan. He's the president, Universal Writers and Authors. Hello and welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome today, babe. First, let's start off with a lot of changes are happening. A lot of changes is taking place in our world, in every sphere of life, and that also includes, education itself and means of passing information across. How important is reading culture to us as a people, and why should we preserve that?
Reading culture is very important because if you did not read, you can't write. And if we allow people to write for us, they wouldn't write the way we want. Our history, our religion, our culture, they wouldn't have write it the way we want it. So it is imperative for us, for people of all ages, to read. And this reading should be from the grassroots. That is to say, it should be from the nursery, primary, secondary, and even in the tertiary institutions. But students of nowadays prefer watching films or prefer doing a lot of things without focusing on reading.
And either ways, sometimes you say watching films could actually be educative themselves as well. There are some very educative, films, and sometimes some books are translated into films. And so people feel maybe there are other options, of getting this information, aside sitting down to read all through, bulky number of pages. and all of that. What would you say to such groups?
In terms of that, let me tell you something. Knowledge is hidden in books. Yes, knowledge is hidden in books. There will be a lot of educative programs in films that students may likely want to watch rather than to sit down and read. But believe in me, reading the book is more important than sitting down watching it in the form of a film. Because there are a lot of knowledge that were hidden. And this reading, if students read, he will get a lot of things, a lot of ideas, a lot of some things that he might not know, that it will be important to him, that if he get to know them, he will use them, he will apply them.
Okay.
So you see?
Okay, so I'm really keen to know, really, apart from reading books, to explore the world, and gain knowledge and all of that, is there really something important? Is there another aspect to reading that we don't know?
Apart from reading books?
Apart from reading, to explore the world, gain knowledge and all of that, is there really something apart from that that we are not, seeing or we are not exploring?
Okay. You see, apart from reading books to gain knowledge, there are a lot of things that you will, of course, benefit through reading. I will cite some examples. There are a lot of students nowadays, especially in the secondary school, most of them, a lot of students, if you call them or you sit down with them, get their books, assign them to read some paragraphs or some comprehensions, most of them cannot. We conducted, here in our association, we conducted an essay competition. This is to test the students' readership and writing skills. In order to see, are the students reading? And are they benefiting from what they are reading? And to our great surprise, most of them are not reading. A student in post-basic, that is in SS section, cannot write a simple paragraph, which consists of simple sentences. Talk less of writing an essay. So you see, apart from gaining knowledge in reading, it is when you read that you will have the exposure, that you will have the knowledge of how to write. That is number one. It is when you read that you will know your culture. Most of our secondary schools nowadays do not teach history. Most of them, we abandon teaching history as one of our subjects in the secondary school.
All right, now let's bring in, another perspective to this. We have joined us virtually, Denja Abdullahi. He is the former president of the Association of Nigerian Authors. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning. Okay, it appears that we are yet to get him ready. Maybe you just continue with your own thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, you talk about enhancing your writing skills. As one of the benefits,
of course,
of reading. What other benefits are there for students aside in knowledge and enhancing writing skills as well?
I give an example with knowing your history and culture. It is when you read that you will know your history, you will know your culture. Like I have said earlier, if we do not blow our trumpets, someone might blow it for us. So we should blow our trumpet the way we want it. If we didn't do that, then people are there. They will blow it for us.
Okay.
And probably they wouldn't blow it the way we want. So that is to say, our culture, our religion, and even tradition,
okay,
they will have written it in a form of we might not like it like that. So we should read in order for us to know our culture, to know our religion, to know our tradition, to have some perspective.
Okay. So now, would you say the decline, in education standard has an impact on our reading and writing culture?
The decline in what?
In our education, the decline in the education, sector, in Nigeria's education sector. Would you say the decline has an impact on our reading and writing culture?
Of course, it has. It has. Because, like I have told you that many students now do not read, especially in this. If you come to the post-basic section, they don't like reading. I had a conversation with one of the students where he told me that why should he bother himself reading? Meanwhile, he will get his A's and B's in his WAEC or NECO examination.
And how is that?
As in how?
How is that? How would he get that?
Of course, because the schools promised A's and B's to the students. That is what is happening in the reality.
Miracle centers, in other words. We have them everywhere.
Most of our schools are miracle centers. Sorry to say, most of them do have miracle centers. They promise students A's and B's before they even join the schools. Yes. Most of the students join the school because of the A's and B's that they are going to get when writing their WAEC or NECO examination. So you see, these miracle centers, they have their bastard effect on reading and writing culture among our youths.
All right, now let's talk about other angles to this. We have about 13 million out-of-school children in Nigeria. So first of all, before we talk about reading culture, we must be able to enroll people into school, get them educated before they would even, pick interest in, reading and the likes of it. How do we deal with a situation like that? In a situation where it looks like the educational sector, especially in the northern part of the country, seems to be under attack.
So actually, we have a decline in terms of enrolling students into school, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, northern part of the country. There are a lot of issues or a lot of things that are attributed to this. Number one, insecurity. This insecurity greatly has its impacts on the youth. Because you may have a lot of students or a lot of children roaming the streets. They are not even after of going to school. What they are after is for them to be secured. They are not even secured. So we must provide security for students to be in the school, especially northern eastern part of Nigeria, some northwest axis. For the out of school students or dropouts, for them to be in school, security must be provided, adequate security. By providing adequate security, it will help for them to go back to their school because they are not at peace. Peace must reign first.
Okay.
That is number one.
Okay, so for locals, you know, who do not even think about anything school, how do you encourage them, you know, to go to school?
Okay. By encouraging locals to go back to school, this is a difficult task. Yes, it is a difficult task. Though there is an initiative by some of the state governments, I don't know whether the federal government initiated it, free basic education, that is from nursery to junior secondary or from nursery to senior secondary. So we can encourage them to go back to school by, number one, by helping them to go back to school. How do we help them to go back to school? Some of them do not even have, some of the parents, let's talk of the parents first. Some of the parents do not even have money to cater for the children, talk less of them sending them to school. Because as the 14th Emir of Kano have been saying, Muhammad Sunusi, yes, he has been saying, he has been talking about this, the children, how we get back to children in the northern part of Nigeria. You will see a household with more than 30 children or more than 20 children.
So you're talking population control?
Yes, population control. We should control the population. The government should control the population. And aside controlling the population, government should as well help them in taking them back to school.
Okay, now, you know, talking about the role of parents here in this instance, we have a very high level of poverty, you know, in the land. If you look at especially the northern part of the country again. And so you have, even among those who have managed to send their children to school, sometimes children, there are certain expectations on children. When they come back from school, they are expected to do some chores, sometimes even do some hawking. You know, some of these children, they actually fend for themselves in terms of even paying their school fees and the rest of them. In that situation, how do they concentrate on reading? Where you find yourself in a situation where, you know, you are not well taken care of. In fact, the reading itself, it's considered like, you know, it's a waste of time. Like you are supposed to be doing something more productive, quote unquote.
Yeah, we get something.
You know, exactly. So looking at that, you know, from that angle, the society in which we are, how do you, you know, reconcile this?
Okay, actually, we have a serious problem in the north. Yes. We can reconcile this in using some ways. Number one, like I have talked of population control. If, for example, we control the population, government control the population, especially in the north, we couldn't have such problems. We might not have such problems that we have children that are even taking care of themselves, feeding themselves or something like that. If you have been taking care of feeding, clothing, shelter, etc., then your time, I think students will actually utilize their time in reading. But you are not taking, you are not being taken care of, one, your shelter and even clothing. So you see, you have things that you must focus on. You must focus on your clothing first. You can't walk naked. Yes.
Okay. We're going to get back to that. Let's quickly go on a short break. When we come back, we're going to continue the discussion. Just stay.
The terrorist network recruited thousands of children to support its fight against state actors. A counter-strategy is used by the Civilian Joint Task Force, where it employed 2,273 children to join its ranks against the insurgents. There have been global condemnation and an action plan to prohibit use of child soldiers in the Northeast. In 2017, the civilian JTF agreed to an action plan not to recruit innocent children in armed conflicts.
Then we decided to push out all those we arrest and hand over, arrest and hand over. So at that time, we have children mingling around us. They come to our checkpoints, just opening gates, closing. They will sweep our environment, the location that we are sitting. We are sending them to buy this thing for us. These are the use that we use them. We did not arm them, you understand? But they are conveying our matches and cutlass and other like porters. We use them.
Mustafa Hamza said he joined civilian JTF because of devastating insurgency. When I was recruited, I sweep their houses in the morning, wash clothes. Sometimes we take food to them, and sometimes too we cook for them. 15 of us did these chores. My parents knew I was working for the group. They prayed for my guidance. At that time, the town was in crisis, so I didn't attend school. Mustafa Hamza is among thousands of boys engaged by the civilian JTF in 2013. He stopped attending school at the age of 9 because of the crisis, and anything to survive on counts a lot. With the war almost over, tailoring keeps him busy, but he has other plans. Apart from this tailoring job, I'm also schooling. I want to become a politician, like a governor or president, so that I will reach out to those in the forest to embrace dialogue and return home, and engage in business and enjoy peace. The campaign against child soldiers will continue to ring bells for state actors and armed groups to desist any plans involving children in conflicts.
Coronavirus disease, COVID-19, is an infectious disease caused by SARS-CoV-2 virus. Most people who fall sick with COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate symptoms and recover without special treatment. However, Some will become seriously ill and require medical attention. The virus can spread from an infected person's mouth or nose in small liquid particles when they cough, sneeze, speak, sing, or breathe. These particles range from larger respiratory droplets to smaller aerosols. You can be infected by breathing in the virus if you're near someone who has COVID-19 or by touching a contaminated surface and then touching your eyes, nose, or mouth. The virus spreads more easily indoors and in crowded settings. Maintain a safe distance from others at least 2 meters even if they don't appear to be sick. Wear a mask in public, especially indoors or when physical distancing is not possible. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay home if you feel unwell. Get vaccinated. Properly fitted masks can help prevent the spread of the virus from the person wearing the mask to others. Masks alone do not protect against COVID-19 and should be combined with physical distancing and hand hygiene. Protect yourself and others around you by knowing the facts and taking appropriate precautions. Follow advice provided by your local health authority. This message is brought to you by Trust TV.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. We still have in the studio Abdulaziz Al-Hassan. He's the president, Universal Writers and Authors. Now, talking to us about reading culture and how to revive it in Nigeria. How much value do we place on reading in Nigeria as a people, as a society? How much of value do we place on reading? Because mostly what you see is people just merely trying to read to get certificates, But the benefits of reading goes beyond just getting certificates, like we highlighted earlier. So societally, generally speaking, how much of value do we place? And how can we, encourage more people to consider reading not just, for passing exams, but for much more?
Okay, in terms of how much value we placed in reading, actually, we place little or even no value in terms of reading. Because most of us do read in order to pass examination. If you go to our schools, to various schools the secondary schools, and even the tertiary institutions. Most of the students in the tertiary institutions, in the secondary schools, do read just because to pass their examination. Some do not even read, especially in the secondary schools, because they have the assurance that they are going to get A's and B's in their WAEC or NECO examination. There was a research that was carried in 2019 about the reading performance of, the dying culture of reading and students' performance in terms of reading. The findings of the research was shocking, because the research revealed that almost 30 million students in Nigeria do not read for other benefits. Rather, they read for just to pass an examination.
Okay, I think this brings me to this my questions. The issue about when they say examination is not a true test of knowledge, because most of the time you find out that the people that actually come out with the A's and B's, when they come out in the field in the long run, you find out that those that are actually below that are have more intellect than these people that came out with A's and B's. So could you comment on that?
Yes. This is a topic on, sorry, I'm going to chip in something. This is a topic among our topics for the essay writing competition that we do organize in our association. That is assessing students using examination. Is that the only way of assessing students? Or there are many other ways that we can assess students apart from examination?
Right.
Yes, actually, it is not only examination that we can use to assess students and bring the best in students. Yes, it's not only examination. Because some students do crime and pass examination without even knowing what they crime. Yes, some students do crime and pass examination without even knowing what they have crimed. That is number one. Number two, some students do scheme and scan, scheming and scanning.
Those are reading methods, right?
Yes.
I think they are reading methods.
What that means.
It is just like, it is scanning. You know scanning now.
It's a reading method.
Yes, it's a reading method.
Just for our viewers to have an idea, better idea of what exactly you're talking about.
Okay, scanning and scheming. This is where you just read without giving more attention.
Okay, to the content.
Yes. You just scan some key words or some key terms. Upload them. That is all. So some students do scan and scheme just for them to pass examination. Some definitions, scholarly definitions, and more. Because they have the assurance that these scholarly definitions or this definition might come out in the examination.
All right.
So let me scan it.
All right. Now, the primary goal, of reading, I believe, is to get information, is to be informed, is to be knowledgeable, about things. But it doesn't look like we're a society that rewards knowledge, that rewards, having information. So how do we encourage reading in this sense? A society that, value more certain things. For instance, okay, we have certain, initiatives or programs that are not necessarily educative, but they get a lot of patronage, they get a lot of followership, subscribers, and the likes. On the other hand, you have educative programs. You have initiatives like reading competition, writing competitions.
Yes, writing competition.
And the rest of them. that do not get the kind of sponsorship that sometimes, some of these other initiatives get. So how do you, encourage, multinationals, corporate organizations to come in here so that there can be, a reward for reading and writing, so that people can see visibly that indeed there are rewards? Because especially if you look at, even in terms of job employment these days, it's not the best of hands that usually would get the job in our times now. Is the one that knows that knows somebody like we always say, and the rest of them. So when you look at some of these factors, how would we motivate people to read when you have these things in place?
Okay. One, our politicians, government must have placed value in this aspect. What I mean here is, it is the duty of the government, not the duty of an associations like ours, to conduct writing competitions, debate competitions, quiz and lexicon, and more competitions. It is the duty of the government. If government can bring such a good initiative, then there are a lot of organizations and associations that are ready to help the government and bring it to a fruition. So if government will help associations like ours, I do believe that reading is going to be rewarding, and people of all ages will believe that reading is rewarding, so for that they are going to read.
Okay. Do you think, a lot of people ask this question. Do you think there's something wrong with our teaching methods that is making, the whole idea of reading uninteresting for people to actually want to learn? Do you think there's something wrong with our teaching methods?
Of course. There are a lot of schools, though I wouldn't mention names, but there are a lot of schools that we get to know that even some of their teachers that they employed were unskilled and unqualified teachers. How could you employ an unskilled and unqualified teacher and expect him to make reading to be lively, to be valuable, and to be important? An unqualified teacher might not have the potential that he will teach and show to the students that reading is lively and important to them. So we can curtail such problems by the following. Number one, by employing skilled and unqualified teachers. Trained, well-trained, skilled and qualified teachers. A lot of our proprietors do have such problems. Some of them complain that the parents cannot afford to pay the school fees, which to me, it is not a reason for a proprietor to employ an unqualified teacher and cites a reason by saying that the parents do not pay school fees or something like that.
Okay.
That is number one. Number two, we should be retraining the teachers, organizing some workshop and training to the teachers. Because even the teaching methods it changes.
Right.
And there are a lot of teaching methods that we have, especially if you have some slow learners or you have students with disability, something like that. So there are a lot of teaching methods that you can use that will facilitate quick learning.
All right, well, thank you so much. We have to end the discussion here. We appreciate your coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, we've been speaking with Abdulaziz Al-Hassan. He is the president, Universal Writers and Authors, here with us in the studio talking to us about the need to revive reading culture and writing in Nigeria. With that, we'll take a short breather, and then when we'll come back, the show will continue. Please stay with us.
A report released by the Food Agricultural Organization in 2021 revealed that over 1 million children are acutely malnourished and more than 600 may die if nothing is done. It also said that 123,000 pregnant or lactating mothers will suffer malnutrition. The havocs of insurgency also contributed to food insecurity, which is responsible for the alarming rise of malnourishment among children. The civil society scaling up nutrition in Nigeria of Borno State chapter reached out to some IDP camps for sensitization and support campaign.
Now that peace has relatively begun to come in the state, so we want to tell the communities that the things that they cultivate easily can be used so that they can be able to use it to feed their children, to uplift the nutritional standard of their children. Little things. The children don't really need much. They need just very little because the body is like a machine. When you feed it with something that is more than what the body requires, it takes up what it wants and it throws away the remaining. So we want to tell them that these little things they see, they don't need much.
Some mothers couldn't hide what they learned and also agreed to improve their children's diet. We were advised to take good care of our children, making sure that they don't stay hungry and are always clean, also with the environment to prevent diseases. The civil society group also extended its advocacy to other communities in Maiduguri. Bitrus Kuruti, Viewer Television News, Maiduguri.
Hello, and welcome to Trust TV News Updates.
I'm Zainab Bala. For more news, follow us across all our social media platforms.
The nightmare that most of these Pape residents have dreaded for many years is finally happening.
The place is a skeleton of itself, a place that was once busy with patients trooping in and out.
I'm standing right now. I'm standing on top of the Maloney Hill in the ancient city of Kefi.
Cooperation. I know communities where they are contributing to buy locally manufactured guns to defend themselves.
Being a Nigerian entrepreneur, and I am going to be taking you on a journey to show you the beautiful, the motivational and resilient nature of Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Behind me is the Arewa Textile Mill, established in 1963 and eventually closed down in 2004.
We are still going into some other hideouts to see if any apprehensions will be made tonight.
Let's travel down to Shekau, a community in Yobe State, to talk to Shekau's mother on what she thinks about this development.
Well, even to be a magistrate is a funny thing.
Yes. Have things changed? Is there more corruption now in the judiciary? And what can we do about it?
Well, this is one of the internally displaced camps here in Gusau, the Zamfara state capital. The suffering of these people started few days ago when an adulterated petroleum product was detected across many filling stations in Kano, which some motorists say is still creating hardship in getting the product. This petroleum scarcity is disturbing us. We have been here since morning. We are in this filling station, and across this area you can see that this is the only filling station that is selling. And we have been suffering this for the past like 5 days, and it keeps on going like that.
Sai an zo mai bi kana dab da shiga sai a sami tsaiko. Allah shugabanni dan Allah su daure su ba talaka sauki a cikin.
We are begging on the authorities, please, to help us solve this problem. Look at it. It's not only the petroleum problem that we are having. See, food prices has gone so far. And then the issue of this petroleum, we have come here since morning, and up to this moment, I still don't understand what is going on here. According to motorists, there are many filling stations who did not brought in the adulterated fuel, but still chose to remain closed. I can remember this problem, we had this problem 20 years ago. We know during General Sani Abacha, there was this kind of adulterated petrol that was brought into Nigeria, and we suffered during that time. And now we are still suffering again. It has come again, this adulterated petroleum product. And we've been suffering for quite some times. We are just calling for authorities to help us and see how they can be able to solve this problem so that we will stop suffering like this.
I
have never seen this kind of problem since President Buhari came to power. And this petroleum problem, they said they have brought in adulterated product, and there is an instruction that it has been withdrawn out of the market. And now why are we having this kind of problem? You go to filling station, you will see some filling stations selling at 210 naira, 220 naira, and no one is saying anything. Nobody is ready. If you go to other areas like Ring Road, like Hadeja Road, you will see many filling stations that are closed and they have the product, but they refuse to open for sale. Meanwhile, as the fuel queues continues within the metropolitan city of Kano, motorists are calling on authorities to provide a lasting solution to the problem. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
You can see how frustrating, motorists look in that fueling station in Gombe State. It's really sad.
It is. And, initially, that was Kano. Initially, when the whole thing started, it started from Abuja and then Lagos. People were thinking, oh, it's not going to get to some other states, maybe to just be restricted to just Lagos and Abuja. But eventually, we started seeing, it's expanding to other states as well. Even Port Harcourt and the rest of them. So it shows that, it will eventually spread and all that. But hopefully, things are going to get better in the coming days, like we are already seeing indications that the fuel queues are, dissipating. We also are seeing that, yes, this issue of hoarding is a major problem. Some stations, they actually have this fuel, but they are refusing decide not to sell. Maybe just for a few people, they'll be selling for their cronies, their friends.
I saw that on Friday last week when I went to get fuel. They would open the gate for some few people and say, oh,
we're not selling.
Yeah, we're not selling.
And
then one would troop in and then they open the gate.
One even told me that, no, he is going to go and buy gas, not fuel.
Oh.
And so that was why the gate was open to him, because I was right behind the person. I was just passing, and then I saw that there was no queue, and then I saw a couple of people inside the filling station. I said, okay, maybe I should just try this one. And then I stopped by, and then there was someone in front of me, so the gate was open to him. And then while I was trying to make my way into it, the gate was shut on, right before me. And then the person said, well, the person in front of me was just going to buy gas, not fuel.
Well, it seems like some people take a look at your face and see, should I allow this person in or not?
No, I think it was. Sometimes it's not really even about who they are seeing or what they are meeting. But I think there were calls that have been exchanged, beforehand.
Wow.
I know this person, I know this person.
To set a level ground.
Exactly. So once the person comes, the gate will be open to the person.
Oh my.
And all that. I think that's what happened. But I mean, we have to come off this. There's no point hoarding this product. Everyone needs it, and which is why the government is supplying it in the first place. So I think it will do us all good to just release the product, let everyone has access. By so doing, there will be no hoarding anymore. It's not in the interest of anyone to continue in this route, because honestly, I'm really looking forward to the impact that this will have on our economy. The last week that we had, by the time we see the GDP growth rate of the first quarter of 2022, I'm expecting that there will be certainly a negative implication of this, scarcity on the general productivity of the economy, because I mean it was really messy last week. You had people selling a liter of fuel for as high as 800 naira.
In some places, 1,000 naira. It's really sad.
So black marketers were really cashing in, on that last week. But I hope that all of that has ended, and I hope that we will not have to go through the same experience again. I mean, for crying out loud, adulterated fuel finding its way into our country without, anybody noticing and knowing, which is what was, pointed as the reason why we find ourselves where we are today. So I hope that before any fuel is being imported in the country, it will be checked and all the necessary points of verification will be passed before eventually to get to economy. Otherwise, if this happens again, I can only imagine the impact,
really tragic,
of all of that. Well, with that, we've come to the end of the show for today. It's been an interesting discussion on the program. For those who have missed, you can always catch up on our YouTube and also connect with us via our social media platforms. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for watching the show. Join us again tomorrow.
And I'm Zainab Bala. See you tomorrow.